Rain on Kepler 442 billion doesn't fall so much as it attacks. Each drop hits like a tiny liquid bullet, and today it seemed personally offended by Zara Kixtel's existence. She knelt beside the fresh grave, her purple skin darkening to an almost black shade of grief, but watching the water turn the red soil into something that looked disturbingly like blood. Here lies Pip Kixtel, the headstone read, beloved daughter, taken too soon. What it didn't say was killed by corporate cost-cutting and a mining supervisor who thought safety protocols were more like safety suggestions. 8 years old. That's all Pip got. 8 years of asking why the sky was green and why adults were so stupid and whether she could have a pet rock that actually moved. Now she was 6 feet under, and Zara was learning that grief felt exactly like someone had reached into her chest and torn out everything important. She's in a better place now, Grix mumbled from somewhere behind her. Her ex-husband had shown up wearing his "I'm too important to properly mourn" face, checking his communicator every 30 seconds. Even at their daughter's funeral, he couldn't commit to being present. The mining accident was nobody's fault, added Grix's mother, because apparently today was National Say the Worst Possible Things Day. These things happen. These things happen. Right. Like gravity just randomly decided to malfunction and drop a support beam on a child. Like the safety inspector who was supposed to check that beam hadn't been paid off by Galactic Mining Corp to look the other way. Like the emergency medical team hadn't been delayed because they were dealing with a more profitable emergency across town. Zara wanted to turn around and explain to her former mother-in-law exactly where she could shove her platitudes, but she was too tired. Grief was exhausting. It felt like trying to breathe underwater while someone sat on your chest and played bagpipes directly into your brain. The other mourners were leaving now, making those awkward shuffling movements people make when they want to escape but don't want to look heartless. Soon it would just be her, the rain and the growing certainty that the universe was run by idiots. That's when she felt the tap on her shoulder. "Excuse me," said a voice that definitely didn't belong to anyone she knew. "Are you Zara Kixtel?" She turned to find a human standing behind her. A human. On Kepler 442 billion, in a cemetery. During a rainstorm. Because apparently today wasn't weird enough already. He was tall, pale, and wearing a coat that somehow managed to look both expensive and like he'd slept in it. His hair was the color of mud, and he had the kind of smile that suggested he knew something you didn't and was trying to decide whether to tell you. "I'm Marcus Webb," he said, extending a hand that she didn't take. "I'm here about your daughter." "My daughter is dead," Zara said, each word feeling like swallowing glass. Marcus's smile widened. "No," he said, "she's not." "I'm sorry, what?" Zara stared at the human like he'd just announced he was actually 3 small aliens in a trench coat. "Did you just tell me my daughter isn't dead? Because I watched them lower her body into the ground about 20 minutes ago." "You watched them lower a body into the ground," Marcus corrected, pulling out what looked like a standard data pad but with modifications that made it buzz faintly. "But it wasn't your daughter." This was it. This was the moment Zara's grief finally drove her completely insane. She was having a conversation with a delusional human in a cemetery while her daughter's grave filled with rainwater. Tomorrow she'd probably be talking to the headstones and asking them about the weather. "Listen, human," she said, standing up and discovering that rage felt better than sadness. "I don't know what kind of sick joke this is, but if you don't—" "I'm part of an organization called the Collectors," Marcus interrupted, apparently unbothered by the fact that she looked ready to introduce his face to her fist. "We've been operating across the galaxy for about 40 years now. Our mission is simple. We rescue alien children from preventable deaths." "You rescue them?" "Yes. From preventable deaths." "Correct." "By letting everyone think they're dead." "Well, when you put it like that, it sounds weird." Zara laughed, and it came out sounding like something a broken engine might make. "Weird? Weird is finding socks in your freezer." This is insane. This is the kind of insane that comes with its own straitjacket and a lifetime supply of happy pills. Marcus tapped his datapad, and suddenly a holographic image appeared above it. A little girl with purple skin and enormous eyes was sitting in what looked like a classroom, laughing at something off camera. She had a gap where her front tooth used to be, and was wearing a shirt that read, "I'm not short, I'm fun-sized." It was Pip. Very much alive Pip. Zara's knees decided they were done supporting her weight. She sat down hard in the mud, staring at the image of her daughter who was supposed to be dead but was apparently attending some sort of interdimensional kindergarten. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Yeah, that's what everyone says," Marcus replied, crouching down beside her. "Look, I know this is a lot to process. Finding out your child isn't dead is usually considered good news, but it does come with some complications." "Complications?" Zara's voice was flat. "My daughter is alive, and you're calling that complications?" "Well, there's the part where she's been legally declared dead, and the part where bringing her back from the dead would require explanations we're not authorized to give, and the part where our entire operation depends on people thinking we don't exist." "Your entire operation?" "Yes." "And of rescuing alien children?" "Correct." "From preventable deaths?" "You're catching on." Zara closed her eyes and counted to 10. Then she counted to 20. Then she gave up counting and opened her eyes to find Marcus still crouched beside her, looking patient and slightly concerned. "Prove it," she said. "I just showed you." "Prove it." "Show me my daughter. Show me this impossible organization of yours. Show me how you faked her death and why you thought that was a good idea. Show me everything, or I'm calling security and having you arrested for harassment of a grieving mother." Marcus studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay," he said. "But I should probably warn you, once you see behind the curtain, you can't unsee it. And trust me, the curtain is hiding some pretty spectacular weirdness. More spectacular than finding out my dead daughter is actually alive?" "Oh, you sweet, naive alien," Marcus said, standing up and offering her his hand. "You have no idea." The entrance to the facility was hidden under a fake gravestone that read, "Here lies common sense, died of neglect." Marcus pressed his palm against it, and the entire thing sank into the ground with a soft hiss, revealing a staircase that descended into darkness. "Really?" Zara asked. "You put your secret base under a cemetery?" "Would you look for a secret base under a cemetery?" Marcus replied, starting down the stairs. "No, but that's because I'm not insane." "Exactly. Nobody expects the secret base under the cemetery. It's like hiding in plain sight, except we're hiding underneath plain sight, which is even better." The staircase led to a corridor that looked like someone had taken a spaceship and decided to decorate it with motivational posters. In there featured a Zephyrian kitten clinging to a branch. "Teamwork makes the dream work." Showed various alien species holding hands around a rainbow. "Today is the first day of the rest of your life." Had been defaced with someone's addition of "unless you're dead," then yesterday was. "Who's responsible for the decorating?" Zara asked. "Rita. She says positive thinking is essential for morale. The rest of us say it's essential for making us want to throw ourselves into space, but Rita has the bigger gun, so positive thinking it is." The corridor opened into a vast underground chamber that defied every law of physics Zara thought she understood. The ceiling was at least 50 feet high, and the space was filled with what could only be described as organized chaos. Children of every species she'd ever heard of, plus several she hadn't, were running around playing games that seemed to involve floating objects and controlled explosions. "Welcome to the Collector's primary facility," Marcus announced. "We call it the Daycare of the Damned." Rita came up with that name too. A tall human woman with graying hair and shoulders that could probably bench press a small shuttle approached them. She wore a uniform that was part military, part teacher, and part referee, and she moved with the kind of confidence that suggested she'd stared down entire armies and won. "Commander Rita Vasquez," she said, extending a hand that could crush walnuts. "You must be Pip's mother. She's told us all about you." "She's told you about me because she's supposed to be dead," Zara said, shaking Rita's hand and trying not to wince at the grip's strength. "Yes, well, death is more of a flexible concept than most people realize," Rita replied cheerfully. "Would you like the tour, or would you prefer to skip straight to the existential crisis?" "I think I'm already having the existential crisis." "Excellent. Multitasking is very important here. Marcus, take her through the orientation. I'll get Pip." As Rita strode away, Marcus gestured for Zara to follow him deeper into the facility. "So," he said, "what do you know about human nature? You're loud, you multiply too quickly, and you have an alarming tendency to stick your noses into things that aren't your business." "Perfect. You've grasped the essential elements. Now, imagine if that last part was actually a good thing." They walked past a group of young Thraxians building what appeared to be a functional robot out of spare parts and pure enthusiasm. A human instructor was helping them, speaking in their native clicking language with an accent that suggested he'd learned it from a textbook written by someone who'd never actually met a Thraxian. "The thing about humans," Marcus continued, "is that we're really bad at minding our own business. We see a problem, and we fix it. We see injustice, and we fight it. We see a kid in trouble, and we rescue them. It's like a compulsion." "So you decided to start kidnapping alien children?" "We prefer proactive relocation of at-risk youth." "It sounds less felonious." They passed a classroom where a dozen different species were learning what appeared to be advanced mathematics, except the equations were floating in the air and occasionally exploding into sparkles when someone got the right answer. "The thing is," Marcus said, "we kept running into the same problem across the galaxy. Kids dying from preventable causes. Industrial accidents that could have been avoided with proper safety protocols. Diseases that were treatable but expensive to cure. Wars that adults started but children paid for. It was happening everywhere, and nobody was doing anything about it. So you decided to fake their deaths and steal them. We decided to give them a chance at life. Everything else was just logistics." "Mama. Then Mama." The voice hit Zara like a physical blow, and she turned to see Pip running toward her with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for discovering that homework had been permanently cancelled. Her daughter launched herself through the air, and Zara caught her automatically, spinning her around while trying to process the fact that she was holding a child who was supposed to be dead. "Mama, you're here. Did you come to see my project? I built a volcano that actually works, and Tommy taught me how to say hello in Regelian, and yesterday we had pizza that was purple and tasted like happiness." Pip was talking at roughly the speed of light, her words tumbling over each other in her excitement. She looked exactly the same as she had before the accident, except for the obvious fact that she wasn't dead and was apparently having the time of her life. "Pip," Zara managed, her voice cracking. "I thought you were." "Dead?" "Yeah, Dr. Randolph explained about that. He said it was like playing hide and seek, except the game was with the entire universe and the hiding spot was really good." "Dr. Randolph?" "That would be me," said a voice from behind them. Zara turned to see a human man who looked like he'd stepped out of a mad scientist catalog. His hair was white and stuck up in every direction, his clothes were covered in what appeared to be scorch marks, and he was wearing safety goggles that were currently pushed up onto his forehead. "Dr. Felix Randolph," he said, extending a hand that was covered in what looked like glitter. "I'm the one responsible for the death simulation technology. Quite proud of it, actually. Very convincing." "Death simulation technology," Zara repeated slowly. "Oh yes, quite sophisticated. We replicate the injuries, create a synthetic body that will pass basic medical examination, stage the entire event, and then use selective memory modification to ensure that witnesses remember seeing what they expect to see. It's really quite elegant. You can modify memories, only temporarily and only to enhance what people already believe they saw. We don't actually change what happened, we just make sure people remember it the way they expect to. It's the difference between rewriting history and highlighting the parts that matter. Pip tugged on Zara's sleeve. "Mama, want to meet my friends? There's Zix from Proxima Centauri, and she can make her skin change colors, and there's Boom Boom from the Andromeda sector, and he's really good at making things explode in pretty patterns." "How many children are here?" Zara asked, looking around at the bustling facility. "Currently?" "About 300, Dr. Randolph replied. "We've rescued children from 47 different species across 12 sectors. It's quite the operation. 300 children that everyone thinks are dead." "Well, when you put it like that, it sounds rather morbid. But think of it this way, 300 children who are very much alive and getting an education that spans the galaxy. They're learning languages, sciences, arts, and most importantly, they're learning that the universe is bigger and more wonderful than they ever imagined." A small blue child with tentacles instead of arms approached them, chattering excitedly in a language that sounded like musical chimes. Pip responded fluently, and they both giggled at something that was apparently hilarious in tentacle speak. "She's learned 4 languages since she's been here," Dr. Randolph said proudly. "Remarkable aptitude for linguistics. She's been helping us communicate with some of the newer arrivals." "How long has she been here?" Zara asked. 6 months, Galactic Standard Time. From her perspective, it's been the adventure of a lifetime. From yours, it's been 6 months of grief, and for that I am genuinely sorry. Zara watched her daughter demonstrate something to a group of fascinated alien children, all of them laughing and applauding. Pip looked happy. More than happy, she looked alive in a way that Zara had never seen before. "What happens now?" she asked. "That," Dr. Randolph said, "depends entirely on you." "Let me get this straight," Zara said, sitting in what Rita had cheerfully described as the moral complexity discussion room. It was a comfortable office with chairs that actually fit her anatomy, which was more consideration than she'd gotten from most places lately. "You want me to choose between exposing your entire operation and living with the lie that my daughter is dead?" "That's a very blunt way to put it," Rita replied, "but essentially accurate." "And if I expose you?" "The operation shuts down. The 300 children currently in our care get sent back to their home planets, where they'll immediately die from whatever we rescued them from in the first place. Future rescues become impossible. And we all probably get arrested for interstellar kidnapping. And if I don't expose you? You get to visit your daughter regularly. She gets to continue receiving an education that will prepare her for a galaxy-wide career in whatever field she chooses, and other children continue to be saved from preventable deaths. But you have to live with everyone thinking she's dead." Zara rubbed her temples. "This is insane." "Yes, but it's the good kind of insane. The kind that saves lives." "There's a good kind of insane?" "Oh, absolutely. There's the kind of insane where you talk to your houseplants, and there's the kind of insane where you decide that the death of children is unacceptable and you're going to do something about it regardless of what anyone else thinks. We're definitely the second kind." The door chimed, and Marcus stuck his head in. "Sorry to interrupt, but we've got a situation. Zara's ex-husband and his family are looking for her. They're at the cemetery asking questions." "What kind of questions?" Zara asked. "The kind that start with 'where did she go' and end with 'this is suspicious.'" Rita sighed. "How long has she been missing?" "About 4 hours." 4 hours isn't that long for someone processing grief, Rita mused. "But if they're actively looking—" "I have to go back up," Zara said. If they think something's wrong, they'll start digging and then they'll find you. Not necessarily. We're very good at hiding. You're hidden under a fake gravestone that says here lies common sense. You're not that good at hiding. Taken. They made their way back to the main chamber, where Pip was engaged in what appeared to be a heated debate with a crystalline about the proper way to construct a photon ridge. She looked up as they approached, and her face fell. "Do you have to go?" she asked. "I have to go explain where I've been," Zara said, kneeling down to her daughter's level. "People are looking for me." "But you'll come back." Zara looked at Rita, who nodded. "Yes, I'll come back." "Promise?" "I promise." Pip hugged her tightly. "I love you, Mama." "I love you too, sweetheart." The trip back to the surface felt like the longest elevator ride in the history of the galaxy. When they emerged from the fake gravestone, Zara could see lights moving around the cemetery and hear voices calling her name. "Zara." Grix's voice carried across the rain. "Where are you?" "I'm here," she called back, walking toward the lights. "I'm fine." "Where have you been?" Grix demanded as he approached with his mother and what appeared to be half the neighborhood. "You've been missing for hours." "I needed some time alone," Zara replied, hoping her voice sounded steadier than she felt. "I was walking. Processing." "Processing what?" Grix's mother asked suspiciously. "It's been 4 hours." "Processing the fact that my daughter is dead," Zara said, and was surprised to find that the words still hurt, even knowing they weren't true. "Processing the fact that I'm never going to see her again." Which was a lie, but sometimes lies were kinder than the truth. "You can't just disappear like that," Grix said. "We were worried." "I'm sorry," Zara replied, and meant it. "I should have said something." As the search party dispersed, Zara caught a glimpse of Marcus standing by a distant gravestone, watching. He gave her a small nod, then disappeared into the shadows. Some secrets, she realized, were worth keeping. 6 months later, Zara had developed a routine that would have made her old life laugh at its impossibility. Tuesdays and Thursdays, she visited Pip's grave and had loud, one-sided conversations about how much she missed her daughter. Wednesdays and Saturdays, she visited the facility and actually talked to Pip about her day, her projects, and her growing collection of friends from across the galaxy. It was the weirdest double life imaginable, but it worked. "Mrs. Kixtel," said a voice behind her. She turned to see Nix Valoran, one of her neighbors, approaching with tears streaming down her face. "I just got word about my son." Zara's heart sank. She'd been dreading this moment for weeks, ever since she'd learned that little Jax Valoran was working in the same mine where Pip had supposedly died. "Nix, I'm so sorry," she said, reaching out to take the other woman's hands. The support beam collapsed. Nix sobbed. "They said it was instantaneous. They said he didn't suffer." "They always say that," Zara replied, thinking of the conversation she'd had with Marcus 2 days ago. The conversation where he'd told her that Jax Valoran had been added to their rescue list and that they'd need a few days to stage the accident properly. "I don't know how you do it," Nix continued. "How you go on after losing a child. I feel like I'm drowning." "You learned to swim," Zara said, and it was true, even if the water was deeper and stranger than anyone could imagine. "And you remember that love doesn't end just because life does." Another lie that was kinder than the truth. They stood together in the rain, 2 mothers mourning children who weren't dead, and Zara wondered if this was what heroism felt like. Not the grand, sweeping gestures of legend, but the quiet, daily choice to keep a secret that saved lives. Across the cemetery, she caught sight of Marcus standing by the fake gravestone, waiting. He'd be approaching Nix soon, offering condolences and an impossible hope. The cycle would continue, one rescued child at a time. "Zara," Nix whispered. Do you ever wonder if there's more to it? If maybe somehow, somewhere, they're not really gone? Zara thought of Pip, probably in the middle of a lesson about quantum mechanics or interstellar navigation, surrounded by friends who spoke in clicks and whistles and chromatic skin changes. Sometimes, she said softly, I think hope is just another word for faith in impossible things. Do you think that's enough? Zara watched Marcus begin his approach, saw him practicing his expression of sympathy and his impossible opening line. In a few minutes, Nix would learn that her son wasn't dead, that he was part of something bigger and more wonderful than either of them had ever imagined. I think, Zara said, that sometimes impossible things are the only things worth believing in. The rain kept falling, washing away the surface sadness and leaving behind something deeper and more complex. Love, maybe. Or hope. Or the kind of faith that made humans risk everything to save children who weren't even their own species. As Marcus reached Nix and gently tapped her shoulder, Zara smiled. The galaxy was full of preventable tragedies, but it was also full of humans who were too stubborn to accept that prevention was impossible. And sometimes, being too stubborn to accept the impossible was exactly what the universe needed. The end.